follows. Let's ask a slightly different question. Why am I using album ID and album ID? Why don't I just have album name? Throw that away. We don't give them names. Why don't I just here have album name as a string? After all, if I take a look at all the data in the album table, the names are all unique. Why bother to give them IDs? Why not just have the album names here, and here just record the album name and say, if the album name recorded in the track, well, I don't even have to join the tables now. I've got the album name. Why is that a bad idea? In fact, a really, really bad idea.
This is not future-proof.
Okay, why is it not future-proof? That's really good. Like that buzzword, that was... Clearly, you are headed for an elected position somewhere, right? It's not future-proof. We need to re-energize and debug-burnerize our scalable priorities, right? Okay. But in a socially aware manner. Big society. Okay, why?
Because someone might produce an album with the same name.
Somebody might produce an album with the same damn name. How many albums out there are called greatest hits? Far too many, and most of them lie. Okay? So, if I just record the album name here, it is almost certainly going to be ambiguous. There are a lot of other people in the world named Greg Wilson. There aren't very many named Gregory Vance Wilson, but there is at least one. Right? At least as far as the IRS is concerned in the United States, there is at least one, and it lives, I think, in Oregon. Right? I'll be there. The second was your question. What if I want to rename the album? What if when I originally entered the data, I just said the album name was 10,000 volts? In fact, the album name is 10,000 volts exclamation mark. Okay? And that matters for copyright purposes. It's a different legal name for the artist's work. If I go back here, it's easy to change the name of the album from 10,000 volts to 10,000 volts. Right? But now I've got to go through this other table. Number one, I have to know to go to this other table and find all of the places that have the same album name and update them as well. And if the album name appears in several different places, and it might, I have to go through and update those without accidentally updating any information that isn't about this album. Bachman-Turner Overdrive's last album was called Greatest Hits So Far. Okay. Yes, Canadians do irony. Most people don't know that. Okay. How many times have you been in your word processor and you do search replace and you say, I want to replace all occurrences of bad with good, right? And you wind up with, instead of the word badger, you have the word goodger. Okay. Exactly the same thing happens here. Right? If the only things I've got in my tables are the actual data that I care about, like album names and artist names, it's not future-proof. Right? It's not replacement-proof. If I've got something like an album ID, which is really unique, and which doesn't mean anything in the real world, right? It's the databases to work with, right? Then I'm safe. Right? I have friends who have changed nationality, name, and gender. Okay? Now, any kind of database that was tracking them by their real properties would probably have lost track. But that's not how we track them. We give them unique IDs. And this whole I am not a number, well, as far as the database is concerned, that's the safest choice. You've got your experimental subjects. You give them IDs so that if you want to come back and change some of the data associated with that entity, or if that entity moves around or some of its properties change over time, you've got a way to track it. So that's a key thing in database design, and that's why you see these seemingly random numbers popping up. It's to separate what I need to do to keep the database going from the information that I'm actually storing.